Hey everybody, Destin here with Paul Tassi. Paul, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. This week we're gonna talk to the death. I need to come up with something better than to the
Talk
death.
to the death. It's not even argue to the death. Just talk to the death.
We're gonna talk about Halo. We're gonna talk about State of Play, and we're gonna talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. We should probably start with the good news of the week, and that's the Halo campaign, because the other stuff I have a feeling people are going to bounce. So, Halo Infinite, well, maybe not Guardians, but you know what I'm alluding to.
hmm
Halo Infinite campaign trailer releases. What was your impressions of Halo Infinite before this happened, and now that you've seen it, are you more excited?
Yeah, I mean, all we literally had to go on up until now for the campaign was the video that got it delayed a year, which was terrible. So I'm not surprised they went with a bit of a different format this time around, where they cut it into an actual trailer and they kind of only showed the highlights. I guess like they really made sure it was like very action packed. So they didn't want like another kind of long lagging stretch of time where it wasn't quite as exciting as maybe they could have made it look otherwise. But I thought they did a good job kind of blending everything together. The narration was a little odd, even though it's Jen Taylor. That was cool. But I thought it worked very well overall. And I and most everybody seems to have come away with a pretty positive impression of that, even if it is launching without some stuff that people wish it had, like co-op and stuff.
Yeah, so I actually invited a friend of mine, Halo Canon Ian, to talk about what the heck is going on in Halo Infinite. Did you play Halo 5?
Yeah, like at launch, so it's been a while.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Halo 5, but at the end of that story, Cortana's not dead. She's alive and she has these giant guardians that are chasing the Infinity. Fast forward to everything we've seen for Halo Infinite. There's no Infinity. We're led to believe Cortana is dead. I think that's not true.
No, we're not led to believe she's dead. We're looking for her. Isn't that the whole point of the game?
Well, there's a piece of dialogue with the weapon, the new Cortana, about Cortana, and it seems that old Cortana has been deleted or erased or something, or at least that's what we're led to believe. New
I guess
Cort-
she says like what happened to Cortana. Maybe that I don't know. I assumed that the main plot here was like we're looking for Cortana, but
I
who
don't think
knows?
so. I don't
No,
think that's
okay.
what's happening at all, because
Cortana has to be in it. There's no way that she
Cortana
would be
tried
in
to
it.
kill Chief in 5. Why would he, like, not kill him, but like I think she was trying to seal him away for all of
You know,
eternity.
Chief. He wants to find her and fix her and make her
Uh,
friend slash girlfriend again. So that's I will
I,
be amazed if this does not involve finding Cortana or she does not appear and do things.
well, I was pretty negative of my initial reaction to new Cortana. I don't like that she is naive, presented as naive in all of the footage. And I actually talking to Ian. Apparently, she was created like 6 months ago. She's a brand new AI who hasn't really been in contact with humans before meeting Chief. So everything is new to her. Human interaction is new to her. Um, the enemy types are new to her, and a lot of the commenters on that particular video felt like I missed the mark. And I would actually agree now that I have more context about that character's development. I do still think that she's a red herring and she could be Cortana, or she will somehow merge with Cortana to balance out the evil deity that Cortana has become. Where, like, have you thought at all about where the story could potentially go with Infinite and what they're going to do with these
Well, first of
conflicting
all, I
characters?
love that her name is the weapon, where she's like, I'm sure that has meaning behind it. It's just so funny having that assigned to what seems to be like this innocent little AI. I mean, obviously, everyone's first impression when they saw her for the first time in the original kind of campaign trailer was like, "Is that Cortana? No, that's not Cortana. It's someone new, right?" Like it
Yeah.
was a little confusing. Like, so I mean, I could see a plot device making sense where like this is the reset rebooted version of Cortana. I assume it's a different voice actress. I assume it's not Jen Taylor doing a different
I
voice or
think it
something.
is. I think it's Jen Taylor does Dr. Halsey. She does, and Dr. Halsey, her brain was cloned to make all these AIs. So
Okay,
Halsey's
you clearly
brain.
know way more about Halo lore than
Well, I do because I
me,
just talked to Ian, you know, and he reminded me about some of the stuff in the books
Okay.
and like taught me things about the characters. So,
All right. Well, that would make sense then.
yeah.
So if that's the direction they're going, I can see that. I guess it wouldn't be if that's like the lore setup for this even like this one person's brain is the subject or the basis for all these AI. Like I guess it wouldn't be a huge surprise to like think of her as new rebooted reset Cortana. I guess like maybe that's kind of the point in the first place, and then maybe new Cortana meets old Cortana, and then they can I don't know new Cortana can fix old Cortana or something like that. As for Chief, I he's got to get the banished out of there by doing Just Cause Far Cry map clearing, which
How do you feel
like
about that?
it's very different because I feel like such a hallmark of Halo's campaigns are kind of these, generally speaking, these well designed, well structured, kind of pretty linear segments for the most part. I mean, sometimes there's some open world elements, but not like a choose your own path, like go anywhere in this open space and clear out this base or that base. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is a real big departure from that. I think the thing preventing it from being bad is just the fact that it's like Haloified. So like everything we saw about this in the trailer looked fun to me. Like
Yeah.
I get that the concept of clearing bases is kind of boring and very Ubisoft and whatever, and yet just like the way Master Chief's doing it, just like jumping out of his jump ship like with a rocket launcher, like throwing explosive barrels at the other explosive thing, like it looks like a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, and like I think it'd be cool to explore a giant Halo map and find secrets, and I'm then and there will be like actual campaign missions, like we saw some cutscenes with specific enemies, and like there will be an overarching story to this to some degree. I mean, even map clearing games, Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, whatever, have like a main campaign that you're also doing. So I doubt Infinite is just like, okay, clear these 40 bases and then Master Chief is done. So I think it can work. I understand why some people might be skeptical of it, and yet I think I have more faith than less in the idea. And I think it's a kind of an exciting evolution for the series, and one that I want to participate in rather than like, okay, here's another like 13 chapter story of like these linear levels and this driving segment. And like, I think this has the potential to be a more, I guess, more refreshing structure. And you can see how it can evolve in the future pretty clearly when it's like, okay, well, now we're going to pull a Destiny and here's a new zone, like,
Yeah.
and just adding on to it with expansions or sequels or however they're going to do it. Because they keep talking about this being like, the launching platform of Halo for the whole generation. And with this format, it's pretty easy to see how that could make a lot of sense.
Yeah, talking again just about all the lore stuff. They have so many opportunities of tying up loose narrative threads with this game. Even lingering from like Halo Wars with the Atriox character, which was seen in the background in one of the trailers. I'm really excited. We 343 put out like a tease of the audio logs where we hear from Dr. Halsey. She's the one in Halo 5 who you save. She gets her arm cut off by the banished or whoever the bad guy was in 5. I don't have a fond memories of 5. But yeah, so
I barely remember 5 at this point.
yeah.
Other than
It's
the
been
very
so
end with
long.
Cortana. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's the other thing. Is like you're saying all this lore stuff, and like I played Halo 5 like 8 years ago or 7 years ago or however long it's been. Like it's been a long time.
Do you remember tell me what you remember about 5?
Literally nothing. A lot of Forerunner stuff, and then Five's the one. Five's the one where they split it between Chief and the other dude, and you're just playing as Locke like 70% of the time, right?
Yeah.
That was the big thing they did wrong that they clearly know they did wrong, and no one wanted to do that again. That was also the one they really designed around, like they hardcore designed it around co-op, where like there was like Master Chief had a squad, Locke had a squad, like that was almost always with them. So yeah, none of this is good. I don't remember any of this being good in terms of the structure of it. And then I remember the big kind of Cortana turn at the end and how she's like the most terrifying thing in the galaxy now. I don't exactly remember why that happened. It like she's going insane or something, like as AI's age, they like lose their minds, or I don't really remember why it happened.
Well, that's one that I know, but like AIs go rampant after 7 years, and Cortana's like way past that date, so she like goes nuts.
Cortana's like 100.
But then something happened with the the new character types that were introduced in 4, where she died, but then she comes back. I don't know. See, like even I don't really understand fully what happened with Cortana. So I'm really she's a big bad. I know that happened, right? I know she's bad. I know she has these big guardians that are
Yeah.
chasing Infinity all over the place.
Well,
So
here's the thing about Halo lore. For me, so like when I was biggest into Halo,
yeah,
it's obviously like the Halo 1 through Reach era.
yep,
But like back then, I was pretty young and I was mainly just playing multiplayer. Like I played
yeah,
through the campaign like once, but I wasn't really studying the world and lore of Halo and stuff. And then when I played 4 and 5, I just didn't really like those as much as the original, so I played
yeah,
through them once and then kind of put them down, played some multiplayer. So like unlike say Destiny, where I've spent 7 years hugely immersed in the lore, like
yeah.
I really have to go back to like do a full refresher. I should probably talk to your friend or watch his videos. That would probably be helpful.
Yeah. I
Because
don't even mean to put you on the spot, Paul.
no,
The reason I'm having this
I'm realizing
conversation is,
how lapsed I am at this point, which is a
and I
bummer.
think you're not alone. Like even I was like semi nerdy into Halo. Like I've read the first 5 books, right?
Mhm.
Okay, I didn't read the second one because it's basically explaining everything that happened in the first game. So, yeah. So I read the first 4 books, not counting the one that recaps what
Okay.
happens in the game. And I don't know what the hell is going on in the franchise, right? So Infinite is
It's been 7 years for everybody, so like
yeah.
you're.
Part of the goal is with Infinite, you're going to be able to come in and they're going to sort of like take you on this journey and explain what has happened in a way that's digestible, as opposed to go read the 30 books that have been released, right? So, yeah,
Well, is this kind of supposed to be like a fresh
it
start? Like
is.
that's kind of the impression I'm
That's
getting,
the
where it's like,
goal. Yeah.
okay, here's this one human dude you meet. Here's this new AI who doesn't know anything, just like you might not know anything if you were like 8 years old when Halo 5 came out.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like in a lot of ways, this is probably meant to be more of a fresh start and a clean slate than like Halo 6, which is why it's not called Halo 6. It's called
Yeah.
Halo Infinite. So I think this is the next phase of Halo where like I'm sure it would be nice to know everything that came before, but I doubt they will make that like a complete and utter prerequisite for it, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. Did you see the trailer with the Banish guy talking?
No, I did not. I saw that was out, but I didn't watch it yet.
Yeah, that has me really excited about the narrative storytelling that we're gonna expect from
My
Infinite.
my favorite thing is how often they showed brute faces in the in all the
Oh
preview
yeah,
stuff, just to make it clear that the brute faces are not awful anymore. They're fine.
yeah, definitely intentional.
Good
Returning
job.
favorites, and they go to the Craig spot, and then they blow
Yeah,
him
yeah.
up. Yeah,
That was really funny.
that was cute. Uh, the other thing that happened today that we were going to discuss was the Sony State of Play. It was 22 minutes long, and I got to be honest with you, Paul. Nothing that State of Play had nothing for me in it. Maybe that final game that they showed, Little Devils or Little
Yeah,
Devils. Yeah,
that artistically looked
artistically,
neat.
yes. But like, I'm not
The
super into Star Ocean. I understand
Yeah,
that Star Ocean has a huge following. Not my type of game. All like Bug Snacks. Like, I'm not at the point where I'm playing games
Bug
with my kids
Snacks
yet.
expansion. Yes.
Yeah, very cute, very charming. But I'm just like, wow, this one just feels like it really missed the mark for me totally. And I think that's sort of the consensus. Like, even I've even seen some PlayStation YouTubers who are like, what? It's sort of weird to why even do the state of anyway. What were your thoughts? Mine
It's
were
weird, but like
mostly
I ahead of time, I was like, okay, why is Sony doing like a third party showcase? Because like Nintendo does third party showcases, but
Mhm.
The Nintendo Switch it's its own ecosystem. So like usually when they're doing third party things, it's like an event that a game is coming to the Switch where it might not have otherwise. Whereas PlayStation, at least a good amount of stuff, maybe not some of the stuff we saw today, but a lot of that stuff is going to be multi-platform, whether it's on Switch or Xbox or PC or whatever. So it's not really as big of an event, I don't think. And then when you do get into games that might be, time limited on PlayStation or on PlayStation, it's just the selection is not that big. So when it comes to like, these huge third party potential PlayStation showcase things, it's like everyone's sitting around waiting for like Bloodborne 2 or Final Fantasy 16 or like these
third party,
mega
like
things.
the Grand Theft Auto games are right around the corner. There's so many third party games that are like right around the corner, and they didn't show
But
anything.
need the hook of like this is specific to PlayStation in some regard. Like we have a marketing deal with them, or we have exclusive
They
access
had
to
Death's
this thing,
Door.
or like
That's on Xbox. Like,
yeah, like
it was
Death's Door was
so
one of the best
weird.
looking games there, I thought, and it was
Yeah.
like it's on everything. So
Yeah.
I understand why everyone was disappointed, but like I personally was not. Literally, my highest of hopes for this was to see a preview of Spider-Man in the Avengers because it's the Sony only character edition that's coming before the end of the year, and they didn't even show that.
I thought I saw the logo and I'm like, oh, this is Spider-Man, right? No.
Yeah, and it's definitely not.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I even with low expectations though, like I don't mean to demean these games because all of these games like nothing really like stood out to me as like, oh, that game looks freaking terrible, except maybe the first one, the Deathverse, that didn't look very good.
Well, there's one that's a copy of what, Among Us?
Oh, Among Us with the Sims, that also did not look great.
Yeah.
But like
it's just none of it resonated.
These games are just like smaller games, so you can't hold them to that high of, this isn't some AAA blockbuster thing. And yet, like, they're kind of, it's a double-edged sword because they're getting a huge showcase. So, like, that is, obviously having that showcase is probably better than not having that spot with Sony. And yet, they are going to have a bunch of people yelling because they're not Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a lose-lose situation here, which is, again, why I don't know exactly why they had this show in the first place.
Well, they've set the bar like here. Like their showcases are very often excellent. And I think they almost feel like a need to do one a month just to like be in the conversation because Xbox is doing a show in November. So people are sort of talking about that. Xbox just did the Halo Infinite thing. So like, oh, we got to do something so people remember about PlayStation. I don't think anybody's forgetting about PlayStation anytime soon. And it just didn't feel necessary. I didn't feel like there were any like, I think Star Ocean was a reveal, but beyond that, it's like, hey, we have Destin 2 also. It's like, okay.
But like, this whole thing is so weird though, because we're in such a bizarre situation where like literally Sony can do anything they want and it is not going to matter for like 3 years because like my buddy's trying to get a PS5 now and he's asking me like for tips and stuff and I'm trying to look out on his behalf. You can't. It's still impossible. We're a full year later and everything is still selling out, within the first 15 seconds of going up. And it's like, it's nuts. So like all this narrative about like, oh, Sony's looking kind of weak here. Like they don't have a holiday, like doesn't matter. Like maybe in long-term perception of the company, I guess. And like, these little arguments we have about, what has a better slate of games. But like in terms of the current status of like console sales, nothing matters. It's just who can make the most consoles and Sony can never even come close to making enough in the current setup. So it's a really weird situation that I feel like it's never been to this extent, like these kind of shortages. I can't remember shortages lasting this long to this degree for consoles. I mean, maybe I was too young to remember when it used to happen, but this seems pretty unprecedented to me.
It's really hard to get a Series X because of the console supply. I'd say it's near impossible to get a PlayStation 5 right now. Very, very difficult to get one unless you buy it from a scalper and they're like $1,000.
Or you join like the Best Buy Super Club membership or whatever with elite access to
which is
special drops. Like it's the whole retail system is broken. Like, I can't even buy peanut butter crackers at the grocery store. So like I'm not surprised that there are shortages of, higher end items. Like the whole supply chain in the entire world is just beyond effed right now. So like it's, what are you going to do?
In terms of consoles, though, I think it's worked to not only Sony's advantage because they outsold Nintendo. I have to wonder if Nintendo is suffering from a shortage of being able to produce units, or if finally the great Nintendo Switch has reached a saturation point. Like how many of those things how long can you be number one in terms of console sales before like you hit a saturation point? Apparently it's something like 8 years or however long the Switch has been out.
Yeah. I mean, like if it has reached a saturation point, I think it had a pretty good run, but even then, I mean,
well, then
I'm willing to bet that Nintendo could have just, the shortages could have led to Nintendo changing their minds about a Switch upgrade with all the potential power upgrade capabilities. And that's why we got the Switch OLED. Like, I think that's possible. So, like, it could have affected them in that way. I don't think, I haven't tried to get an OLED, but I'm sure that's probably pretty hard to find around holiday season.
Yeah.
right now. Yeah, pre-orders may be one thing, but like trying to find one live before
Well,
the holiday
now,
might be something else entirely. Yeah,
yeah,
so
now it's just no.
I think everyone's kind of in the same boat to a certain extent.
Yeah, you make a good point about state of play, but overall, my reaction is very negative for me personally. Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't even want to poo poo on the games. The games are whatever. I just they don't resonate with me. That doesn't mean they're bad. That just means they're not games that I'm gonna. I have so many game choices right now, and this is just a problem with the industry. It's like, well, do I want to play these 3 games this week or those 3 games this week? There's so much stuff coming out constantly that you're having to choose what you dedicate your time to, and it's a good problem to have, but it does mean that these smaller games sometimes get missed. I will say I think part of this though is Sony continuing to respond to say, hey, we support indie devs, we support smaller developers. Here's
That's what
we're
I
doing.
thought. That's why I
Yeah,
thought they did this because there was this whole thing like maybe I don't know a month or two
because
ago
indie
where
devs
it was
said
like
Sony sucks. Like,
yeah, essentially. And then like I think I did a story where I went to the Sony store and tried to find like indie games. And it was
yeah.
like the visibility on the Sony store compared to the Xbox store was like non-existent.
Mhm.
And I think they were trying to shed that rep. And Yoshida, did he go to the indie game part of it? I thought.
Well, one of the people over at Sony has been working on that, being able to find new games, featuring new games that are added to the store, so they're not just buried. Because for so
Yeah.
long, you literally could not find anything, and devs were saying like their sales on PlayStation were like below 100 copies.
That's wild. That
You
doesn't
know,
even make sense. Yeah.
so Sony's been
So
working on it.
yeah,
And
so
this is
again,
the
like I said
message of
before,
it.
this is a good spotlight for these games to have.
Yeah.
It is certainly going to do them more good than harm. It's just that fans who are expecting big things, they didn't really. I don't think they really downplayed, the show. They said it's going to be third party, but they weren't exactly like,
Well, third party is
where these are
Rockstar,
our
Far
smaller
Cry.
partners or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, some of them were like Square Enix is not a small partner, but most of them were. So it's just a weird show all around.
Yeah. Unexpected. But there is one final thing I want to talk to you about, Paul, because you know what? I think you're right about something. I think Guardians of the Galaxy is a good game. I played it. I don't think the art style is particularly amazing, but the gameplay, I played, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes of it. First hour or whatever, I'm like, oh, I get where they're going with this. This is cool. You get to utilize your character's powers in almost like a Mass Effect type setting, or for some reason, this is going to be like a weird correlation, but Super Mario RPG vibes. Like, I don't know why, but I really
I wouldn't have
liked
made
it.
that comparison, but yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it really connected with me right away. And I was like, oh, I like this. And the music choices are great. The interaction between the characters consistently throughout missions is like, it's constant. It's really
So
really
much dialogue in this game. There is, I think in my review I said, there is not a period of more than, I'd say, 30 seconds in this game where someone is not talking. And like, if all the characters were super annoying and you hated them, that would be bad. But I think generally the script is good, the characters are good, so it works.
Yeah, I'm really really having a fun time with it. Pleasantly surprised, and happy to be wrong. I love it when I'm wrong because it just means I just got a great game to play.
No, okay. To be fair, it did not look very good. Like I don't think the marketing for this game. I don't know exactly what they should have done differently, but there was no hype for this game. Not really. There was no real buzz around it, and they kept having these really long. Like it was like half the Square Enix showcase at E3, and then they had like a 30-minute preview that dropped a week before launch, and like none of this was generating any buzz. And I don't think anyone had any real expectations for it. And while it's probably not in like top 3 games of the year or whatever, like it is certainly much better than I was anticipating, and I think anyone was anticipating. And then a very, very sharp contrast to Avengers, which is what everyone was worried about. Like, I have people now asking me, like, isn't this just like Avengers or the Guardians of the Galaxy? And I'm like, it is literally the polar opposite of Avengers in every possible way. I think people like the return to a very linear, very story-driven, very not concentrated on anything resembling DLC or microtransactions or live service type game.
The strongest part about Avengers was the main story. The story,
and that was like 4 hours or something in Avengers, and here it's like 20 hours. So it's like it's the good part of Avengers stretched out. My biggest complaint is I don't think combat holds up super well
It's
over
pretty
time.
basic.
I think it's a little spammy in my opinion, where you just spam all your friends' abilities and stuff. I'm just comparing it to like Arkham and Spider-Man and Avengers, which I think all have very, very, very good superhero combat systems. And this one is just okay to me, but it's not like it wasn't bad enough to make me like hate it or something. It just I don't think it stood out for me personally. And what stood out is
Did you finish it?
the story, the voice work. Yeah, I did. So I actually had a review copy, and so I spent about a week with it, playing a good amount every day and trying not to just like rush through it. So it was longer than I thought. It just kept going when I thought it was going to be over. And I'm like, I'm going to hit embargo, right? And I did. I had some time to spare, which was nice. So this, unlike say Far Cry 6, a game that I stopped after like 10 hours, this I was like, okay, no, I got to see this through. I really want to know what happens. Like, I'm all in for this, and it got me to finish it. And I think that will probably be true of a lot of people, because it's not Far Cry. You don't have to clear a whole map full of stuff. You just literally you're almost walking in a straight line for like 90% of the game because of how it is so linear. We do not see games as linear anymore. So it's in a way, I think that's refreshing for a lot of people, because it was for me. And like I Mr. Live service everything, but sometimes it's nice to not have that.
Yeah, it almost feels like too many games have tried to falsely extend their value or how long you have to play. Like look at Far Cry 6. That could have just been a linear story experience, but they add all of these other things you can do, because what these companies want is they want you to live in their worlds for 100, 200 hours. And I almost like, you're definitely getting your value of $60, but I think a lot of people, like you said, they find it refreshing when you get a game like Guardians of the Galaxy that is just a great 20-hour linear experience that you get to play. We're also seeing like even Metroid Dread. It tells a fairly linear story, but it just has great gameplay with some narrative sprinkled throughout. It's the end of a story for Samus, and people are really responding positively to these just great one-offs, and I love it. I love games like that, so I love knowing that a game will end at some point, right?
Yeah, I do too. It's just that I'm guessing these are harder to greenlight, because to make up for the fact that you don't have microtransactions and you're not planning any DLC, like you need a lot of people to buy it. So like people are asking me like, oh, well, when's this going to come to Game Pass? I'm like, Microsoft's going to have to pay them a metric ton of money, because this isn't like Avengers, where Avengers could go on Game Pass and still sell $80 worth of skins every day in the store. The only revenue here is from the game. So if it went on Game Pass, there's nothing to buy. Like that's it. So that deal would have to be pretty huge. So that's why I did not expect it on Game Pass. I don't know. People always ask me if it's worth $60, but that's a very personal thing. For me personally, I think it was. You can do the whole like hours divided by whatever compared to a movie, and it's like $3 an hour, something like that. So I very much think it's worth it, but you might also want to be a big Marvel fan too. That might help things too.
Yeah, that's that question. Like, is it worth the $60? That's always a tough one to answer, because money is really relative to every human on Earth, right? Like, if you're poor and you can afford one game a year, is Guardians worth it? Is a very difficult question to ask, because you got to look at everything released of the year. You're like, well, you could just wait, get it on discount. Like there's so many ways you can answer that option, right? So I get that one. I like it this far. I'm going to keep playing it. I like the narrative this whole far. I love the banter between the characters. They feel honest, or they feel accurate to what you would expect from like Rocket, what you would expect from Groot and Gamora.
What you expect from Groot. I think I was the most impressed by Drax, because like obviously Dave Bautista's Drax is so iconic in the Marvel universe now with his performance, and I feel like it would have been really easy to just do like a straight kind of parody or copy of his, and like they sort of do, but like it like the joke still lands and the performance is still like pretty much just as good as Batista Drax, except with its own kind of dimension. And there's actually a lot of emotion in Drax's story as you get further into the game and learn about his history and stuff. And he really impressed me, I think, above everyone else. But I think I don't really like Peter. Peter never really grew on me, this like surfer dude version of Peter. not a huge fan, but Gamora, Rocket, and Drax especially, I thought, and Mantis were all fantastic.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to play more of it. Do you think we get another Marvel game like Guardians of the Galaxy? It's popular, but it's not Wolverine, right?
I am curious about that. I don't know what the metric is going to be here because, like, it's Square Enix, and Square Enix's sales expectations for everything are like, oh my
Not
god, Tomb
realistic.
Raider only sold 5 million copies, like in its debut. What a disaster. I don't know what else they could have really done for this. I think they did the best possible job they could have with the task they were given. If the plan was just this should be a one-off game and we're not trying to start a franchise here, like let Eidos Montreal do anything because clearly they're good at making kind of whatever they want. I would be a little surprised if their next project was Guardians of the Galaxy 2, honestly. Maybe they're given a different Marvel property since they did a good job on this one, which I think would be good. I don't know if I necessarily want, another 20 hours of Guardians of the Galaxy after doing this 20 hours. Like, I think once you get to the end, I think this works as very well as a self-contained story that does not really need another sequel. Like, not everything has to be a series. Like, I think it's okay to not do that. It's just not really the norm in the industry. So if it's some huge smash mega hit, then probably yes. But I think it'll perform reasonably well, and it reviewed reasonably well. And I think it might just be time for them to move on to another original project, maybe go back to Deus Ex and finish that freaking trilogy already, or something. But I think generally speaking, I think they just proved themselves that, like, yeah, everyone was skeptical of this. We did it. It's good. Like, peace out. We're going to do whatever. So
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a great template for something moving forward. Like, just refine it from here because you got the storytelling. You've hooked with the storytelling. What's the next step? It's to try it with a different franchise. Or I agree. I don't think they do Guardians Galaxy 2. I think they do a different franchise in the Marvel universe.
You know what my dream is?
What?
My dream is for Eidos Montreal and Crystal Dynamics to combine for a super mega Marvel game. I know Eidos did work on Avengers a little bit, but I want like Crystal Dynamics combat with like they're really good at making those kits, and then like Eidos Montreal story and animation. That would be fantastic. Like I don't know the exact details of this, but like it would not surprise me if Eidos Montreal like mostly did a lot of the campaign stuff because it's so similar to kind of the base Avengers campaign and how that went.
Yeah.
But I also think Crystal Dynamics has done a great job with the character design and the kits of Avengers. So I think they both have their strengths, and I'm going to never say never. I think that would be very cool if they could do a Marvel project together, but we'll see.
Time will tell, but I mean, man, it's nice to be wrong. And it's nice that we're getting good superhero video games lately, and we have more on the way. Paul, let's get out of here. Outro time. Thanks for joining me today, Paul. It's always nice hanging out and talking. Where can people find your other videos about probably Destiny?
Yeah, I'm running a little short on Destiny content now that nothing is happening in the month of November. But I am just Paul Tassi on YouTube, and you can find my videos there. I am at Paul Tassi on Twitter, and just Google Paul Tassi for my articles.
Great. And you can find me right here. But go check out Paul's stuff. Paul's stuff is great. Thanks, Paul. See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye for now, everybody.